Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming out tonight. I'm here in my kitchen, and I love this time of year. Though I'm not a member of the synagogue, I really enjoy Rosh Hashanah and getting ready for it.
She needs to start up her video.
No, she's good.
Oh,
I'm gonna hold on a second.
There we go. Okay. Oh, it says it's bottle. Okay. There. Is that on?
Yep.
So anyway, this evening I'm in my kitchen where I like to harvest honey. I work all over town, and I've been doing the honey for the Congregation for Judaism Reform. I think this is our 4th year, right, Justin? So it's been a real pleasure and privilege to be able to do this every year. I look forward to it. I manage your hive, or the hive at the Congregation. It's in the urban area in Houston, and I manage that all year long so that I can raise honey for your high holiday. So tonight, the honey's already been harvested. In fact, I have to finish drawing the rest of it, but these are honeycombs from my front yard. I live on Newcastle in Bel Air, and I have 3 beehives in my front yard. So anyway, this is a typical frame of honeycomb. I don't know if anyone was raised around bees. Sometimes I find that the older generations, they've already had these gardens and bees in their homes, so it's not really novel to them because that's how they used to live. But I really love it. I've got chickens and bees, and you'll probably hear my finches in the background. But what I'm doing is I'm putting this frame of honeycomb. It weighs about 3.5 pounds, and I'm putting it on a little contraption called a decapper. And I just take one of my kitchen knives and I carefully cut the honeycomb off of the frame. I want to do it in a way that y'all can see me doing it without being obstructed. So I just take the comb and I take the capping off. And this one is from last year. I could tell it's been in the hive for a little bit, the way that the wax cuts on it. It's real gummy. It's probably pollen from the trees, the oak trees, the elm trees, those types of things. It's produced more in the fall. So this is from fall of 2019. I just pulled it out of my front yard, so it's still hot, and that's why it's kind of runny. The hive has to stay 98 degrees year-round, so anytime you pull honeycomb out, it's really as warm as the air during the summertime. So I have this tool, it's called the uncapper, and I just moved the rest of the capping off the frame so that I can get the cells open to put into the extractor. It takes me about an hour to do 1 box of honeycomb with 8 to 10 frames in it. So that's what it looks like. We've taken all the capping off, and each cell is individual and the capping is individual. It'd be hard to show you guys here, but I just want to show you when you pop it off, you're actually taking off a couple of caps of the cells. It's not one big plane. So I'm going to drop it in the extractor here. And this holds 2 frames. And I like that because it's easy to maneuver and take in my car, go to schools or retirement areas for synagogues to harvest the honey. So you have to have 2 to run the extractor. So I'm doing the second comb, getting it ready to put in there. Right. Does anybody have any questions? Are we all muted? Let's see.
Everyone's muted, but if someone has a question, you can feel free to unmute yourself or put it in the chat.
Oh, I love the chat bar.
Yeah.
So this one, I'm not going to be able to cut it with my knife, so I'm going to quickly take the capping off. This isn't too exciting, sorry. But the end result is really neat, and it is exciting to use the extractor and to get your own honey from your front yard. I don't false feed my bees, meaning I don't feed them sugar water. They have to forage for everything they get in the neighborhood. And I also don't put antibiotics or any kind of treatment like that for the bees. I let the bees take care of themselves and do what they need to do. So I'm going to spin this. Just a few times over. And then I'm going to flip it. This is still pretty warm. And if you were here in the kitchen with me, the aroma of this honey just comes up from the cylinder. It's so amazing. So we take the comb out, we flip the other side, and then as this drains along the edges, there's a gate at the bottom here, and that's what I open for the honey to pour into a strainer that's in a collection bucket. So this is the collection bucket with the strainer. We're going to pour that in there and open up the gate, and then the honey will pour into the strainer. And I don't know if y'all can see the honey pouring, maybe barely, but right down here. So that's how one harvests honey in their kitchen. I wanted to show y'all what we're looking at is the honey straining over this micro strained film, and that catches wax and different kinds of pollen debris and bee debris before going into the honey. Now I only strain it for debris. I try and get as much pollen and the byproducts of the honey into the honey. Eating honeycomb is the purest form of honey. When we open it up and start to manipulate it ourselves, it's still valuable, it's still raw and pure, but it's not the purest form. So I'm going to flip this camera around so y'all can see the jars that I'm finishing up. There we go. And then I'm going to brush. Whoops, sorry about that. I knocked down my. If I can get this up here again. All these fandangled things. Okay, there we go. So this is honey for this coming weekend. And I've already been pouring jars, so I know that each jar takes 12 ounces of honey. And so I just, pour this up till the mark, and I think this is such a beautiful, beautiful colored honey. There we go. So I'll do the rest of those later this evening. Sorry, I'm having a little medical. Uh, there. Sorry, I was having a little mechanical difficulty with the pour. Got some on my fingers. So anyway, that's how it goes. Does anybody have any questions?
I have a question, Shelley,
Yes.
Justin. You just mentioned like the honey color, like you said it was beautiful. Are there other like lighter colors that? How does that? What determines the color and stuff like that?
So the pollen sources determine the color of the honey. And when it's dark like this, we think about the pollen that's available in the winter time. It's always dark. The summer and spring tend to be lighter because of the citrus trees and the flowers and the nectar that they're getting in the early springtime. So those will always be lighter. I think I could grab a lighter one out of my pantry. Well, hard to say. This one is somewhat lighter. It's kind of hard to tell, but they can be, you know, the color of sunshine, or very light golden, or almost dark as chocolate. But I wanted to see what this one tasted like. Because the honey for Rosh Hashanah this year is dark. So it doesn't look so dark on the spoon as it does in the jar, but it's definitely dark. It has like a mapley taste to it. It's kind of hard to describe.
Oops. No, I think we lost your video here. Looks like.
Oh. You know what? This silly phone.
There you go.
Oh, there we go. Someone was trying to call me.
Oh.
So does anybody else have any questions?
I got another one. Sorry. You know, how many beekeepers are in Houston? You know, and I know there's an association.
Yeah, I'm
but
the treasurer of the association, and we're actually having a meeting tonight from 7 to 8. We're doing all Zoom. And so we're having these great speakers from all around the United States because we can afford them now. So that's kind of been one of the good things about the pandemic. Tonight we're expecting 77 people to join our Zoom for the presentation. And I believe we have a little over 350 paid members right now. Not everybody's really active, but you know, that's all range of beginners to people like myself that work full-time as beekeepers in different aspects of the beekeeping, like bee removals or producing honey and working at the farm, farmer's market. So, yeah.
all right, so we got a couple of questions in the chat here. Dick wants to know, how do you get into bee raising?
Oh gosh, how do you get into it? Well, there's so many books and YouTubes and stuff out there, but I would recommend joining a club.
I mean, I think he's asking, how did you get into it?
Oh gosh, back in 2003, I read a book called The Secret Life of the Bees, and it was made into a movie. And I love the part about the beekeeping. And I was taking care of my mother-in-law and had 3 little boys at home and was pregnant. And I just read everything about the bees that I could find. It was before internet. And after my mother-in-law passed away, I had more time on my hands. My kids were older. And so I got into beekeeping, and that was in 2009, where I really got bees and got going. Or maybe, yeah, it was about 2008, 2009. So that's how I got started. And I have this huge, busy world of bees now. I can't believe it. It's pretty exciting for me every day to get up and do some kind of bee related activity or job. So yeah, thanks for asking that.
And this is from Henrietta. How often do you take the honey off the combs?
Well, today I took 6 frames out of one of my personal hives in my front yard, and you saw me do 2 of them. Yesterday I harvested a client's honey, and it was 25 pounds. And then I worked some of my own honey. So for me, I pull honey 3 times a year, pretty much for everyone. So I have probably 2 dozen clients. So I'm constantly working a hive, pulling honey, harvesting it, and drying it. And if they've had their hive for a year or more, I'm pulling honey in early May, and once again in July, August, and then late October, November, sometimes December. So Houston's climate has changed so much over the last dozen years that I'm doing this that it used to have a seasonal rhythm to it, but now it seems year round. There's not really a really good break in the action, which has been kind of interesting and it can get kind of exhausting. So I hope that we have a January, February where it's rainy and a little cold and keeps, keeps me indoors.
And Leslie was asking, as far as the honey that is created, is it just raw honey, or is there any flavored honey that you make?
No, I do not do any fusions. A woman that I work with occasionally, B2B Collective, her name is Nicole Burgers. She does infusions, and she has a honey of the month. And this month, her honey is strawberries. So, and I love that she was telling me yesterday she made it strawberry infused this month because she was thinking about all of the kids home and not all those peanut butter and jelly sandwiches that weren't going out the door for school this year, and how it just seemed like part of our American tradition to put, to have peanut butter and jelly sandwiches in our lunch boxes. So I thought that was pretty neat what she was doing. But I am a big fan of just raw, hyper local honey. I really like the way that I do it because I raise the bees, I build the equipment, I raise them, I create the hives, I harvest the honey myself out of the box. I then, work it myself in the kitchen. So only one person's doing it, and it makes it, I think, more special because I know my bees, and I can tell you, or anybody that asks, details about the honey or different experiences I had working this hive. So I like to keep it small. I did run 100 hives at one time, and my kids told me one day, "We think you love bees more than you love us." And I was like, "What?" And I said, "Well, you're just always working." And that, I was like, you know what? They're right. I was working too much. And so I gave 50% of my business to another woman that was training to become a beekeeper to support herself. And I quit working so hard, but I still work a lot. It's just have more balance with my working. I'm super passionate about what I do, and I feel so good when I'm out and alone with the bees. I love the way the hive smells. I love the sound that the bees make. I don't have to think about anything but what's going on right in front of me and that hive. So it's easy to get lost there and kind of check out. But so I'm doing better getting that balance in my life. So anyway.
This is from Sharon. She says, is this done in your backyard and do you have to get a special permit to do it?
Well, actually, I used to have all my hives in my backyard, which is like just this green patch of grass with a tree. But all my neighbors have super fancy swimming pools and outdoor living rooms. And one of them over here in the corner has 3 televisions in their backyard. I'm just like, oh my gosh. So I moved my bees to my front yard. And I haven't had any problems with anything since I moved all my hives to the front yard. So I love it. I have people stop by my front door and go, hey, can I buy some honey from you? I've taught beekeeping to Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, homeschool groups, all kinds of people. I would talk beekeeping to someone that was just walking by and was like, I always wondered what you did over here. Can I come over? And I was like, yeah, I put them in a bee suit and they had a little bee monster. So that's where the fun is, the buzz is, having those bees in the front yard. It's really opened the world about, coexisting with bees, not being afraid of them, and then really learning kind of the cool stuff that they can do for us. Yeah.
Marilyn wants to know how many bees do you actually have, and are they in their hives all year long?
Well, right now I have 3 hives in my front yard. I just split one of them and made it into 2 for a teacher, one of my daughter's teachers from a long time ago. She and her husband are homesteading in the Caldwell area. And, teachers' salary in a farmhouse, raising your own food these days. I was happy to make them some hives. I took those up there. So I can have up to 6 hives in my front yard or my backyard. That's the regulation here in Bel Air. And you can have 3 chickens, but I've had 30 chickens before because I was just raising them for friends for a little bit. So I always have between 4 and 6. And each one of those hives, I use a certain setup. So I have a brood box, and then I have another box on top of that. And that makes the box where the queen lays all the eggs. And then I put another box on top that's the honey box. So I try and keep these bees between 40,000 and 60,000 bees per hive during the high point of the summer, because nobody's backyard needs a beehive in it with 100,000 bees. And if you're running a really healthy big hive, they can get up to 100,000 bees, but nobody needs that many bees in urban setting. So yeah, my hive's probably 40 to 60,000 at peak, and then they drop down to sometimes 10,000 during the winter. Because the queen right now is laying the generations of bees for our cold months coming. So bees can live 3 months just in the hive, not going out the door where there's wind or rain or getting eaten by insect or hit by, hitting a windshield. Bees can live that long. So that can give you, if it's 30 days from egg to, 21 days from egg to mature emerging bee. So if that egg was laid today, the queen lays 2,500. That egg will emerge around the middle of October. Yeah, around the middle of October, and then it will live for 3 months. So it'll be middle of November, December, and January. And so those are your bees that get your hive through the cold winter months. So that's kind of like a quick biology, but yeah, those bees will stay with me, those generations, and get me through to winter. So unless something drastic happens, or they get sick, or they're infested with some insects that are dangerous to them, smallhead beetles and wax moths, actually the same moth that eats our clothes, our wool clothes, if we don't keep them um, oh no, Buttercup, that's my dog, sorry. They will, they'll be fine and they'll make it through the winter, and then come February, the queen will be signaled that there's pollen and nectar starting to be available with the spring flowers, and she'll start to lay eggs again, and then another cycle begins. So we go through spring, peak of amount of bees is like mid-July, and then it starts to taper off in August, September, October. And then they kind of hunker down. They don't hibernate because they're always moving, but they stay within the hive. They cling to each other because they have claws on their feet, and it's called festooning. And festooning is kind of like they have so much hair on their bodies that they are kind of like Velcro to each other. And so they will cling to each other to stay warm. And the outside of the bees will move in, and the inner bees that are in the inner cluster will move to the outside. So they continue this rotation so that none of these bees in their colony perish because they get cold. And I love that. So anyway, they're so exciting. Sorry, I'm rambling on, but I could talk to you for a long time about these.
Last question comes from Sharon.
Yes.
She's asking, Sharon wants to know, where can your honey be purchased? This will be the last question.
It's only word of mouth. So
What'd she say?
I usually deliver or do a porch pickup. And are y'all selling honey?
At HCRJ?
Are you doing online ordering?
Yeah. And if anyone here is interested, I can, help out as well.
Yeah, this is their jar for their holiday season this year. It's 12 ounces. So it was hard for me to price the honey. So I ended up just pricing it $1 an ounce. And I pack it in this type of jar. And you can request glass or plastic. This is food grade plastic. But yeah, I would love to sell y'all honey. If you come pick it up on my front porch, you can taste it. You can see the beehives because you have to drive past them to get to my front door. And it's totally safe. Except for, I will tell you a funny thing, and then it's probably time to play bingo. But one day I saw an Amazon truck drive through and throw a package out of its window into my yard. And it was a bunch of bee books that I'd ordered. And I caught up with them another time, and they said, yeah, they were afraid to stop because of the beehives. And so they were throwing my Amazon packages just randomly out of the truck when they drove by.